As a business immigrant, what you should do when you arrive in Canada, your initial steps. So let's discuss this topic. Don't go far away.
Just a quick reminder before we start. Please know that whatever you hear in these live sessions or any content you see on social media by Savirov's law firm is general information only and not legal advice. While we may use certain real-life scenarios or legal cases for learning purposes, it is important to remember that this does not constitute a legal opinion. For personalized legal advice, please consult with your lawyer or hire a Canadian immigration lawyer. Now, let's get back to our show.
As usual, we are bringing you the latest news on immigration from Canada. The news number one that we couldn't ignore is the drastic measures announced on Monday, January 22nd by Immigration Minister Mark Miller about the decrease of international student numbers coming to Canada in 2024 and 2025. There will be a cap of 364,000 per year, and this affects many aspects of Canadian life, starting from labor force. So if your business in Canada relies on affordable labor force, which relies on international students and their spouses, which used to come on an open work permit, your business model should be reconsidered. So there will be fewer number of international students going forward for at least 2 years. 364,000, where does this number come from? Initially, in my estimate, this is the number of international students that we used to have pre-pandemic. After the pandemic, the numbers have increased drastically to 600,000, 800,000, and even 900,000 of international students per year arriving to Canada. So things have changed. You need to go to this link and read it for yourselves. There are so many uncertainties after this announcement. I hope we will bring some clarity after the immigration minister starts to implement this or shares some clarification about what to expect from this cap and this decrease in numbers. For number two, the news number two is following that announcement, the biggest provinces that receive international students, British Columbia and Ontario, have plans to crack down on bad actor colleges preying on international students. So there are certain clients and business models that foresee creation of an educational institution in Canada. So if you are a foreign business owner who wants to establish a college or a high school or perhaps university in Canada, you should read this announcement by Globe and Mail and understand who are the bad actors. What have they been doing to make the governments of BC and Ontario very angry now that they will be cracking down? And don't do what the bad actors did if you want to do a business in the educational sector. So this is a good piece for you to analyze and contemplate. Finally, the express entry draws that we cannot ignore have occurred twice this year already. One on January 10th, the next one was yesterday. And both of them have a very modest number of invitation, I would say, if you compare to other invitations that we received by last year in December. These are 1,000 and 1,500, whereas the CRS score is still very high. So you may consider, if you want to get permanent residency through business immigration, these are the numbers to consider. And whether or not we will see going down, I don't think so, because we have a very healthy pipeline of potential express entry candidates who are already in Canada and they are getting ready to be in the pool in the near future. Finally, the news that just came in from Globe and Mail is that Bank of Canada keeps key interest rate at 5%. They decided to keep it for the fourth consecutive quarter, which is a good sign, and they are talking about cutting down the rates in the near future. So it's widely anticipated that the experts were anticipating that the rates will be kept as is. And now the Bank of Canada is talking about possible cuts in the near future, which is a good sign for the business and business immigration overall. So we'll get back with our presentation. Stay tuned. Your first steps in Canada.
Are you constantly on the move, managing your business, and looking for a convenient way to stay informed about expanding your business to Canada? Look no further. Introducing Speaking of Canada, the podcast that keeps you in the loop on all things related to Canadian business immigration, delivering the latest news, invaluable tips, and captivating interviews, no matter how busy your schedule gets. Speaking of Canada has got you covered.
Did you know that when you come to the Canadian border by air, sea, or land, you are actually applying to enter the country? So there is an application. Of course, there's no formal piece of paper, but you are, as a person, by your appearance at the border, you are applying to enter. Theoretically speaking, Canadian Border Services Agency officers, CBSA officer, will evaluate whether to let you in or not. So there's an application, legally speaking, when you are at the border. So what do you need to do as a business immigrant? Today we have part 1, and we will be discussing the situation where you reach Canadian border and you enter. So what happens after you enter? That's for part 2. In the near future, we will cover that time frame after you enter the Canadian border. Today, we focus on navigating your first steps after landing in Canada. Most probably, you will come to Canada as a foreign business owner or entrepreneur, but you will come by air, and at the airport, we will also use certain FAQs that our clients ask us before arriving to Canada. Through that FAQs, we will present the main points today of reaching Canadian border and entering Canada successfully. First and foremost, you need to understand, as a business immigrant, you will be issued a port of entry letter, which is a barcoded letter, also referred to as correspondence letter or letter of introduction, LOI, is a letter issued by IRCC if you have been approved for a work permit. As a business immigrant, you come to Canada on a work permit status. Whether you need visa to travel or not, that depends on your citizenship. Most probably you need a visa affixed on your passport. The visa is a travel document. This letter of introduction, or we call it port of entry letter, is not a travel document. That's more when you arrive at the Canadian border and you present that letter to CBSA officer. Port of entry letter is not a work or study permit. That's the next step. So when you give this letter, CBSA will evaluate and issue work permit at the border, which is a different kind of document of different color. It acts as an invitation letter. This point of entry letter acts as an invitation letter, allowing you to activate your work permit when you arrive for the first time at the Canadian port of entry. Whether it's a land through the United States, or sea, or most probably by air, it doesn't allow you to work, and it's not a travel document, as I explained. It's just the initial step to initiate the activization of your work permit. There's a box titled Permit Validity on your port of entry, POE letter. You must come to Canada and activate your permits, the suitable permits, most probably it's work permit, prior to that date. So it looks something like this, as you can see on the screen, with barcodes and everything. This letter is already registered in the system that CBSA will pull out when you come to the CBSA desk at the airport, and they will pull out your file, and you should be mindful of the validity of this letter. Another question that is commonly asked by our clients: what should I carry with me to the border? Other than personal items, of course, we are concerned about the documents. So in hard copies, if possible, print the entire package, original package that was submitted on your behalf by your lawyer, and they should provide you with the whole package. As a business immigration lawyers, we do provide a pre-arrival package to our clients. Print that out just in case. Your port of entry letter, which I already showed an example of, and your work permit form with barcodes. So if possible, the whole hard copies of these documents should be printed, and you should keep it in a folder to be presented at the border. But if you cannot print, at the minimum, please print the work permit form with barcodes, application form completed that you submitted, use of representative form because your representative can be reached by a CBSA officer. Most probably as a business immigration applicant, you have a representative, either it's an immigration lawyer or sometimes it's immigration consultant. Family information form, if you are coming with a family, as you know, business immigrants, they get a restricted work permit while their spouses and their children, they get work permits or study permits respectively. Offer of employment and offer of employment receipt, that's the offer of employment from your Canadian company to you. That should be printed out. Submission letter prepared by your lawyer. There's a detailed submission letter that business immigration lawyers prepare and submit. And of course, POA letter that I mentioned. At least have this ready, because make the life of CBSA officer easier. Don't overcomplicate the situation. I know the traveling by air takes many hours to reach Canada, but you are tired, your family is tired, but you need to be ready at the border with the necessary paperwork in your hands. Soft copies. It's highly advisable to have all the documents on a USB stick, just in case, because the paper copies may get damaged or lost in the luggage, or you may forget them somewhere, but have the soft copies at the border just in case. Next question is, what will the approximate process be at the border? What's going to happen at the border? There are various scenarios. If you are coming just to activate your work permit, there's a process. They will ask questions. You will present the documents that I mentioned earlier, and things go very smoothly. But if your work permit is pending, but you have a travel visa, visitor visa, that allows you to come to Canada, when you are at the border, this situation may happen. If your work permit is pending and you are coming for exploration, just to see the business environment, many of our clients come to Canada in advance, not on a work permit, but as a visitors. Depending on their citizenship, they get visas or they need ETAs. So when the CBSA officer at the border inquires about the purpose of your visit, you will share with them the status of your pending work permit. Of course, they can see it on their screen that there's a work permit pending, but you are coming on a visitor visa. You should be open about it and say, yes, this time I'm coming on a visitor, on a visitor status, but my work permit is pending. By the way, if you share the point of entry letter with them and ask whether they might provide you with an update on your application, if they can decide on the spot saying that yes, you can activate your work permit. And overall, CBSA officers are not very strict. Okay, when things are very clear, you will be issued or you will be given the work permit. They may ask you to step into a secondary location to review your application and ask further questions. So don't get nervous when they ask you to step aside and go to this separate room because there's a big flow behind you. It's okay. It's okay to do a thorough investigation in a way, that's thorough review of your applications. There will be two outcomes as a result of a secondary location to review your application. Either they will be able to review your work permit on the spot and issue a decision right there because they have that discretion to do so, or they will be unable to do so and will grant you entry to Canada as a visitor. That's okay too. You can enter Canada as a visitor and then your application will continue to be processed. So that's a moment, an opportunity to activate. But if they decide no, this time go as a visitor, your work permit will be will reach a certain result in due course. You can enter as a visitor, but this is a good opportunity to inquire. Sometimes the updates are not very fast in reaching the applicants, and it's a good opportunity for you to inquire. If this scenario applies to you, how do you ask the officer to review your work permit? What's your approach? You can say, explain nicely that your work permit is pending, but you came as a visitor to Canada this time. It has been processing for almost X amount of months. It takes sometimes for certain applicants from certain countries, it takes months to process. And the continued uncertainty is very difficult for you, for your family, because, relocating from one country to another and planning it accordingly, especially when you have, school-aged children, you need to plan, and you need certainty for your business, you need certainty for your family, and so on. You kindly ask if it's possible to get an update on the status of your pending work permit application. It's okay to ask if there is a pending application in your situation. And you say, I've not received any updates through other means. IRCC sometimes is slow to send you updates through your lawyer or directly to you. If you are able to process my application now, I have my package with me. As I said, your package is there. Just present it, and they can decide on the spot. We had some cases when our clients, were issued work permit, and things became faster on the spot. And of course, depends on how busy is the CBSA officer on that day of your arrival to Canada. Always remember to have your immigration lawyer contacts ready. If there are some questions, misunderstandings, some explanation needs to be done. We as Canadian business immigration lawyers, we know when our clients are arriving, and we stand ready just in case if CBSA officer wants to talk to us to clarify certain things in your application. This, again, a continuation of that dialogue of your request to consider your application. But keep in mind that your work permit application includes your family, but you are traveling alone. Sometimes it happens, okay? You're traveling alone as a visitor, your family is back home. This is perfectly reasonable, but something you should note for the officer. You should say, my family will be following me later on, but today I'm here on my own, and if you can activate my work permit, that would be appreciated. Ensure that they understand that the work permit application and the submission for it refers to your whole family. It's not just you. You are conducting this exploratory trip as a visitor on your own, as you are the one with a visitor visa. Maybe your family members don't have visitor visas at this stage. And this means basically the timeline and activities of the trip mean what you're trying to do in your exploratory visit. It is more suitable for you to come this time as a visitor rather than bringing the whole family with you for exploratory visit. If you don't know the answer to any questions that officer asks, you can refer to the appropriate section of the submission package by the lawyer, prepared by the lawyer, or you can just say, I don't know. It's okay to respond to the question, I don't know, with respect to your work permit application details. And many clients ask about COVID restrictions that were implemented previously. All COVID restrictions have been lifted at the airport as of October 2022. You can bring evidence of your vaccination if you like, but it is no longer required. So some countries still have some kind of vaccination proof when you leave the country or board an airplane. This is not the case in Canada anymore. And make sure that you read and review your lawyer's submissions and the documents the lawyer provided to the IRCC on your behalf. Make sure you read it. Some people decide that, oh, I have a lawyer and I don't have to know the details. No, you will be asked questions sometimes by the CBSA officers, and you need to be able to respond to those questions. And coming to how you should respond to CBSA officers' questions, always tell the truth. There's no tolerance for misrepresentation or hiding information, and answer each question honestly. Ensure that you are respectful and polite towards the CBSA officer. Do not over-volunteer information. However, do not act stiff or fearful. Prepare yourself. There will be questions and answers. It's a normal procedure. Answer fully, but only what the officer is asking. Pay attention to the questions. If your level of English, your language skills are not strong enough, maybe you can suggest asking the CBSA officer, can you please call my representative, my lawyer, and he or she will be able to respond to your all questions in a better way, with English language skills necessary. And the other question, once you have been approved, as I said, you are applying to enter Canada at the border. Upon landing and your work permit is active, do you require any further approvals? The answer is no. It's one-time approval and it's valid until the validity of that work permit. Keep the approval letter, the work permit, with you for the records and your travels. Keep it as a copy too. Once you receive it, make a copy and keep the original in a safe place, because if you lose that original, it's not good. Please send a copy to your lawyer for his or her records so that they may keep a copy just in case. And you need to store original, as I said, in a safe place, because the validity of the document is 1 or 2 years and it can be lost. So please keep the original to yourself for your travels too. And is there anything else I can do to prepare for landing? That's the generic question that we receive from our clients. We recommend that you review the submission letter, at least the submission letter, to become familiar with it. Yes, the package may be a very big and thick package for your application, but you need to at least read the submission letter. A very relevant question usually is the following by the CBSA officer. If you are the CEO of your company or have been hired as such for a Canadian company, why your salary is so low? For example, you are the business owner, you are the CEO, and the sufficient answer could be I'm the owner of the business. I prefer to draw a modest salary so that the majority of my capital remains inside the business to support its growth and scaling. Basically, you say, I have sufficient funds I can afford not to take big salaries. My lawyer advised me that there is no mandatory minimum wage floor for me as a CEO. And so I have set myself the following salary. So it's explainable. This is a question that we receive a lot of times. Yes, you are the CEO, it's a big title, but your salary is modest, because you don't need big salary as a Canadian business owner when you are in Canada if you have sufficient funds that supports your expenses in the country. I think that's it. These are the FAQs. I wanted to keep it brief for part 1. The part 2 is now you successfully entered Canada. What are the next steps? What you should do? You should settle down in certain neighborhoods, your work permit, your spouse's work permit, your children's study permit. We will discuss it in part 2. Now it's time for your questions, if you have any questions. But if you need guidance on Canadian business immigration, Sobirov's law firm has been doing it for more than 10 years. We will walk you through and be next to you, virtually at least, through each step of the way. Okay, each step of the journey is important, and we are here. We are not just, ending our relationship once the visa is issued, and we don't say you're on your own. We make sure that you are supported on each step and event that happens until you become resident of Canada when you enter Canadian soil. So talk to our teams. Business immigration is our business. And I will take your questions right away. Let's take a quick break and let's come back with your questions.
To stay updated on all things related to Canadian business immigration, check us out on social media. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter for the latest news and updates. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notification bell to stay informed about the most recent immigration news, interviews with top immigration specialists, and our weekly live shows. Visit our website at www.sobirovs.com for more information or to book a consultation with our team of experts.
Well, thank you for your active participation. I have some comments, some questions, I believe, and from our audience. Thank you for your information. Thank you again for participating. Every week on Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. we are coming live to answer your questions and present a topic that may be relevant to you. We appreciate your participation. And there was another comment about job. I think Waqas Ali says job me. I think he's asking, I'm looking for a job, okay? Unfortunately, we are not the lawyers that will find a job for you, okay? We don't arrange employment. We help you with your immigration, your family's immigration as a business owner, investor, or entrepreneur. We are not a recruiting agency, okay? And be careful, when it comes to finding a job, you are the main actor. You should apply and get a job offer. If somebody else is trying to sell you a job offer or trying to, offer you certain services guaranteeing positions in Canada, be very mindful. That's a red flag. Job offers are not for sale. The whole expenses, whatever expenses related to hiring a foreign worker is on the shoulders of the employer. The employer should first look among Canadians to find the suitable candidate. If they prove they couldn't find the suitable candidate in Canada among Canadians, then they ask for a permission, which we called LMIA, Labor Market Impact Assessment, from the government, and the government allows them then to bring a foreign worker. So there is a process, and this process is supported by the lawyers, and we support the employer, and we don't find jobs for you, we don't recruit you, we don't guarantee any jobs. Our main focus is business owners, entrepreneurs, and investors, and also we help Canadian companies who are hiring internationally to bring the talent to Canada. We represent the Canadian employer side. We don't represent the worker side, the one that are looking, the job seeker side, okay? I want to make this very, very clear, because there's a misunderstanding in the market that lawyers will find you a job or immigration consultant will make a job arrangement. I think it's a conflict of interest, and it's not very ethical either. So you need to be mindful who you deal with. Are they ethical? Are they honest or transparent? Okay. All right. Here's a question. My current active work permit is active. Okay. Congratulations. However, I have applied for a new work permit to change in condition, the location. Okay. Can I ask CBSA officer to decide on my case at the border when I'm returning next to Canada? I think it's doable. You need to explain why the location has changed. Maybe your company has made the changes from one location and to the other. Also, be mindful. On what conditions you have obtained your original work permit? Was it location specific? Okay, there are so many analysis that needs to be done before I fully answer that question. Yes, it's possible, but subject to certain preconditions that were applicable to your original work permit. You need to talk to a lawyer. This requires a legal analysis, so that don't quote me on that. Yes, you can come the next time with the right preparation, right arguments, and then ask the officer to give you a new work permit. But again, this requires a legal analysis. Talk to your lawyer about that, okay? I think that's it for today. No more questions. Let's double check. No more questions. Thank you very much for your participation, and see you next week. Stay safe and warm. Have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.